Welcome to Forensic Friday.
Where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all. Hello.
Hi.
I love how we're just like rolling out of bed.
Well, I got out of bed, but I haven't like worked out in the last couple days.
Yeah.
And more specifically, I have not run for like probably a week.
Oh.
And I have this weird thing that if I don't run for if I like take if I take a break for more than like 3 or 4 days, I get really itchy when I start back up.
Oh, I know this.
Yeah, it's
I
a blood
would win
flow.
if there was like a newlyweds game
You would win.
for friends. I would be up there for sure because you've told me this before and it drives you nuts.
Oh, it makes me crazy. So I could only get a mile in today because I was like so itchy.
Oh, that
It
just,
makes,
listen, I don't want to run anyway. I really don't want to run itchy.
I know it's terrible.
You're a warrior.
So I have to start off slow, not slow, but I mean slow because I'm pregnant. But I have to like only do like I have to push a mile. I start to itch at like 0.75 in.
Didn't you find out what it's called? It's called something.
Oh, I don't know what it's called.
It's a real thing. I think maybe I Googled it on your behalf, but I can't remember what it was called.
I'm gonna Google it.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Itchy while running. It's a runner's itch due to increased blood flow. But what's it called?
Maybe it's just called runner's itch, but I feel like there was like I
That's so
I seem to
annoying.
remember a more official name.
Runner's itch diagnosis. It's exercise induced. Your you it's spelled Urticaria.
Your Tecia?
Yeah, it says it's a rare clinical condition that causes flushing, itchiness, and hives after a workout.
I knew there was a thing.
But it goes away if I like am persistent.
Well, probably your body gets used to it.
Yeah, it gets used to the blood flow. Preston always is like, you need to take zinc or not zinc. What is it? Niacin,
Oh.
which I think would help, but I'm always scared of niacin because like you could get niacin flush, which isn't like life threatening, but it just is like makes you itchy and red.
But you're already itchy and red.
So I'm like, I don't want to get more itchy and red.
Understood.
But I really should try it. But now I don't know if I can take niacin while pregnant. I probably can. I just need to ask.
Yeah, you can just ask your doctor.
But it's gotten worse since I've been pregnant.
Oh, well, probably because the blood flow thing is real.
Well, and you're making so much more blood.
Yeah.
You're producing so much more blood. So then I run and I'm like, literally my skin is like crawling.
I don't know how you run with that little bump, but I'm sure it's adorable.
It's not great. The bigger it gets, the harder it is.
I believe that.
Sleep is also super hard.
Oh, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of remember that phase, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So last night we went, my voice is a little fried, so it's good that you're running the
Presenting.
episode. Yeah. But we went and my parents' new besties, like they're so fun.
Yeah.
So she got all of us Christmas gifts. I, of
Aw.
course, got her Christmas. I get everybody Christmas gifts. You know, this makes me very excited.
Yes. Yes.
I still have one for you. I found it on my dresser, so I'll bring it on Monday, but it's
You
so good.
already gave me a bunch of stuff.
I know, but it's so good. I'll bring
And gray.
I know, but you're two individual people, and I love both of you.
Thank you.
So she got me a Love Shack Fancy Stanley. You know
Oh,
how no one could get
dang.
these?
Janine, how many do you have?
So many. So many.
What did you just ask?
Oh, I don't remember. Oh, it's just so hard to get these. Like they sold
Oh,
out like day one.
dang.
And she got me one and it's so pretty. No, this replaces all my lame ones. I'm just gonna hand them out to people.
Well, I want one.
Oh, yeah, I'll give you one. I'll give you one of my Stanleys. My
Thanks.
nieces will gladly gobble up Stanleys.
Yeah.
Lori would take a Stanley.
Yep.
So I'll get them all. I'll just redistribute.
I don't believe this will happen, but
Oh, I will. There's some of them that I'm like, oh, yeah, you're cute, but but this is gorgeous.
Oh, that one's really pretty. I low key want one.
I got out of bed to go get it so that I could look at it.
Oh my gosh.
It's so pretty.
I'm Googling this now.
Oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
Are they like a new design?
It's almost like a watercolory effect. It was like a short-term limited release kind of thing, and they sold out like the first day. And then they came out with more.
Mm-hmm.
But she must have been Johnny on the spot because they're really hard to get.
Yeah, there's like none. I'm looking at it.
I know, but they're so pretty.
That one's awesome.
I know. So I feel very loved and,
Well,
you
that's
know,
so sweet. I love that.
she's just kind of meant to be part of our little circle?
I love that.
Yeah. So shout out Kristen. I am obsessed with my Stanley and now Natalie is as well.
I know. I'm thinking she won't give away her others, but
We'll see.
you know,
I might show up with one for you on Monday. You never
there
know.
are just plenty. You are full of plenty of surprises half the
No,
time.
I really am. You never know what I'm going to roll up with to the office. That's
Mm-mm.
for darn sure.
That's true.
You know?
You are not wrong.
Okay, I'm really excited for your case because I have no idea what you're doing.
Well, did you read any of that?
No,
Okay, perfect.
I had no time,
Um,
and you were like, "I've got it," and I'm like, "Yes, Nat's
this
got
one's
it."
a crazy. I don't know if I can pronounce her name, so give me a sec.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just give it a full send shot. Hold on.
Okay.
Marianne Bachmeier. She's kind of a legend.
Ooh, I have not heard of her, so I'm very excited
You
about that.
have. That's crazy. Okay. So before we dive into her, you're a mom. I'm a soon to be mom. Is
Yes.
there anything you wouldn't do for your kid?
No.
Like nothing.
No. I've already told you I would mow over a stranger who threatened an elementary school for someone else's children. I would do anything for my son. I wouldn't necessarily want to do something that would get me taken away from him. So I mean, I would have to balance like the risk benefit of that.
Hmm.
But I gotta tell you, I mean, I would jump in front of a bullet for him, a train,
Hmm.
whatever the situation was. I His life is a lot more important than my life to me.
Would you kill for him?
Um, what a great question. I hope this never happens because this will certainly come up. They're gonna be like, and remember when she said boop? I would have to have an extraordinarily good reason, and it would probably have to be like in the moment. Like if I don't kill this person, then they will kill him or are killing him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
like retribution, probably not because it would remove me from them unless there was an ongoing risk.
Mm.
If there was an ongoing risk to him, then I would rather get in
Mm.
trouble than have that continue to happen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you
Okay.
go. Well,
Well,
what
I'm not
about you?
I was just gonna say I'm not a full mom yet, but I can't think of much that I wouldn't do,
Yeah,
to be honest.
I get it.
Like after reading this case, I was like, I might do the same.
And
I'm
it's
gonna,
also just primal. I do think
yeah,
women are hardwired connected to our babies. They leave
yeah,
cells in us when they come out.
yes,
So
yes.
even when it's windy, I've told you this before, but when it's windy, it sounds a little bit like a baby crying. And we lived in a really windy house when I first brought Mac home from the hospital. It'll wake me up out of a dead sleep. He's
Oh,
almost
totally.
10. I mean, he's 9 years old, and I still,
Right,
if it's windy, I don't sleep well. Still.
right, right. So yeah, so there's just not a lot we wouldn't do, right?
Mm-mm.
Almost probably nothing that we wouldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Depending on the situation. Yeah.
So this woman, Marianne Bachmeier, shot and killed a man in cold blood in the courtroom, in
Oh,
a courtroom, I should say,
damn.
uh, in Germany.
They probably don't have metal detectors in Germany, do they?
I don't know.
Because in the US, you can't do that.
This was also a long time ago. So she might be
Okay.
like part of why they got metal detectors
She
if they
would
have
be German, though. They are made of some stern stuff.
They are. So we're going to talk about her before we talk about the case, but that's like essentially what happened.
Okay.
Okay. Shot a man in cold blood in a courtroom.
Okay.
Okay. So Marianne, she did not always have an easy life. So she was born June 3rd, 1950 in Germany.
Oh,
Okay.
right after World War II.
Well, I'm going to get into that. So
Oh,
kind of.
okay.
So she did not have an easy life. She was from a small town in West Germany, and her parents had fled from East Prussia after the Second World War.
Okay.
So yeah, so she was born right after, but her parents lived through it and then fled.
Mm,
Okay. So she was raised in a conservative home with very religious parents. Her father was the stereotypical authoritarian parent,
mm,
also a really heavy drinker, and spent a
okay.
ton of time at the local bar that was close to their home.
Okay.
Her parents got divorced, uh, and then later on, her mom remarried. However,
Oh,
this
shit. Oh, Nat. Okay. Real quick.
are you Googling this as I'm sharing the story?
Well, of course, you do the same thing.
No, I don't. I just Google pictures.
Oh, okay. Well, so this just stood out to me. So, authoritarian heavy drinker. Okay. He was previously a member of the Waffen SS, which
Hmm.
was the combat branch of the Nazi Party's paramilitary
Oh,
organization.
damn. Yeah, I did
So
not know
he
that.
was like a hardcore Nazi like special forces.
Mm,
Just saying.
hmm. So that speaks more to who he was.
100%. Yeah, I don't think
Mhm.
he was a great fellow.
No,
Putting that out there.
he was not. And very, very religious, which lines up.
Yes.
Mom got remarried to another basically a-hole
Oh.
and was also aggressive and, it didn't say abusive right out, but abusive behaviors.
Mm.
Marianne was later kicked out of her home by her mother.
Oh.
I know.
Why was she kicked out?
So the stepdad felt like she was basically just a delinquent.
Oh.
I mean, she was troubled. Like, obviously, she grew up with a really hard dad, a
She
mom who,
probably fought back against his ass. So
for
if her
sure.
dad was a jerk and then
Yep.
stepdad comes in and he's a jerk,
Yep.
she's probably getting a little mouthy as a teenager. Like I could imagine.
Well, and mom's clearly not standing up for her.
Exactly. So that makes sense. Do you, Marianne?
Yeah.
Get mad.
This woman, she's spicy. So she got pregnant at the age of 16 by a boy that she was seeing, and the boy was from a wealthy family.
Okay.
Okay. He did not want anything to do with the kid or really her after she got pregnant. So she gave birth to this little child. I don't know if it was a boy or girl, and gave it up for adoption.
Okay.
Okay. Which, like, I'm like, okay, like as a 16-year-old, I don't know what abortion rights were back then. I would imagine they weren't great,
Mm.
or if it was even really much of a thing,
Yeah.
so she did what she felt like was best for her, which
Yeah.
was giving the little kiddo up for adoption right at infancy.
Yeah.
So then Miss Marianne became pregnant again
Mm.
at the age of 18 by some guy she was seeing. And similar story, he wanted nothing to do with the baby. The really, really sad part about the second pregnancy is she was also raped. It didn't say by who. I think it might have been
Mm.
just a random person right before she gave birth.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So this woman's kind of been through it
Ugh.
by the age of 18.
Mm.
So she also ended up giving that baby up for adoption. So a couple years later, she was 22. She got pregnant a third time.
Mm.
Super fertile, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Apparently, yeah.
and also young.
Yeah.
She got pregnant a third time by a man named Christian, and she was seeing Christian at the time. She gave birth to her child, who is named Anna, and she kept her and raised her on her own because Christian also did not want anything to do with the baby or her. So she has this pattern of
Mm.
picking men who just aren't great. or ready for that type of life.
Parenthood, but also aren't practicing safe sex.
Correct.
Yes.
Nor giving her many options, support, anything.
Okay.
So Anna was born on November 14th in 1972. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So because Marianne was a single mom, she would often bring Anna to work, and Marianne worked at a pub.
Oh, so lots of nights.
Yeah, lots of nights around the bar, and she's 22.
Mm,
She's in her early 20s. So Anna would fall asleep at the bar, and so Marianne wouldn't necessarily make it a big priority to get home at a decent time.
mm,
So Anna was basically raised kind of in a chaotic life, right?
yeah.
To me, like I said, it sounds like, a young mom, and they were kind of known around town. Like Marianne was kind of known around town for being like a young mom with her kid. They were like known as like, kind of a duo, like a dynamic duo. But
Yeah.
that Marianne wasn't always the most present
Or responsible.
or responsible.
Yeah.
Because of Marianne's hours at work, she would oftentimes sleep during the day. And as Anna got older, she basically raised Anna to be like kind of a mini adult.
Mm,
So Anna would get herself out of bed, get herself ready for school, and literally walk herself to school while Marianne stayed in bed because she worked late nights and
mm,
then also stayed out. Okay, so Anna was pretty self-sufficient by the age of 7, which is crazy,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Marianne at one point, well, not at one point, she realized that this was problematic and proposed finding a foster family for Anna. And it was like a neighbor that she had reached out to,
Mm,
but then never followed through with having Anna live with anybody else.
okay.
So far, based on what I've shared, what are your thoughts on Marianne and Anna?
I mean, as I work with female offenders quite a bit, I think about how many of them were in really toxic relationships or are now single parents
Hmm.
after the incident. And I'm imagining, 22-year-old. It's just a tough life, and childcare is hard now. It was hard then too. I mean, I don't think it's ever been easy to
Hmm.
figure out what to do with your child while you're working if you're a single parent.
Yeah. And clearly, I mean, her parents, both her parents were out of her life. Her stepdad didn't care about her.
I can imagine that probably Anna did a lot for herself and was probably functioning like a little bit of a mini adult
Hmm.
too soon, just because she probably had to self-soothe a lot and
Hmm.
manage quite a bit on her own. So that's kind of what my brain's doing,
Yeah.
getting a
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah. So I think every parent, that's not true. I think most parents
Hmm.
attempt to do better than what they were given.
Absolutely. I believe
Whether
that.
they were given like, a silver spoon or not,
Yes.
I think most parents do the best that they can to give their kid better than what they had.
Yeah, I've never met a parent who's like, I want to do worse than my parents.
Right.
I've
We've
never seen
we've
somebody
met
say
some
that.
clients who've shared what their parents have been like, and we've been like, yeah, they're not amazing people.
No.
But yeah, most of the time we see a lot of people who try to do better.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I look at it from that point of view, benefit of the doubt point of view, I see that Marianne tried to do better.
Well, she chose to be single instead of having an abusive person around.
Hmm.
And maybe she hooked up with these men who didn't want to be parents, but she wasn't trying to force a parent onto
Mm-mm.
her daughter.
No. And she didn't, from what I know, she loved her daughter, even though
Yeah.
she wasn't the most responsible parent. She was
Yeah.
young. She was a very young parent,
Yeah.
right? And had been through the ringer. So, you know, including her own trauma, I genuinely think she was trying to do the best she could with what she knew,
Yeah. I could see that.
to be honest.
Hmm.
Obviously, from the outside looking in, we look at it and we're like, girl,
Could have been better. Get some help.
could have been better. Why are you staying out after your shift is done,
Mm-hmm.
letting your daughter sleep in a bar,
Yeah.
right? So on May 5th, 1980,
Mm.
when Anna was 7, she got into an argument with her mom and decided not to go to school that day. So
Oh,
I think she got into an argument with her like on the 4th and it had carried over. And so she didn't go to school on the 5th.
okay.
Okay. And I literally wrote down a kid's best way to get back at their parents is to ditch school.
Oh, 100%. It's really the only power you have as a kid is behavioral stuff.
Yeah. Like I'm going to not show up to class. I'm going to be a nuisance to my teachers, right?
Totally.
Because sometimes that's easier to do than to be a nuisance to your parents.
Right.
She walked to her friend's house, realized her friend was not home because she was probably at school,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, since her friend was not home, she went to this couple's house who she had visited before to play with their cats.
We'll be right back. Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
Oh no.
Your face.
I'm already worried. I'm gonna get mad. Am I gonna get mad?
You're going to get real mad.
Oh no.
Yes. So, this couple, they were engaged. I don't know the fiance's name. I didn't look super hard, but, she's not a big part of the story.
Mm,
So, the man's name was Klaus Grabowski. So when Anna went over there, the fiance was not home. Okay.
mm.
Klaus held Anna there for hours as he sexually assaulted her and strangled her with his fiance's stockings and killed her.
Oh, I hate him.
I know.
Mm,
It doesn't get worse because that's obviously the worst thing that could happen.
mm,
But he's just a shitty dude. Okay.
mm.
He then tied her up and put her in a box and left her at the shore of a canal so she'd be found. I'm like, thanks, sir. Like, thanks for doing your due diligence and letting her be found. You asshat.
Oh
Anyway,
my gosh.
I know. Somehow his fiance knew about what had happened. I don't know how. So this is where things get a little fuzzy and the story gets a little weird based on what I like read and listened to.
Yeah.
But basically somehow his fiance found out and contacted the police. So she turned his butt in.
Okay, good for you, girl.
Oh yeah, no, she's like hell to the no on this, okay?
Yeah. And I have to put myself, this is the 70s. We don't have, you know,
Yeah.
it's harder. You and I talk about like background checking the people that we're in relationships with. This is before some of that. So I can imagine,
Well,
oh,
yeah,
oh no.
we'll get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was the late 70s at this point, early 80s, because her murder happened on May 5th, 1980.
Okay.
Okay. So fiance turns his ass in, like by ass, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
good. Bye.
Yeah. The police show up at his place. He's not there, but there was a note there that he had wrote his fiance asking her to meet him at like a local bar. So, and I believe in that note shared what he had done.
Oh.
Okay, so the police showed up at the bar and arrested him because
Okay.
he's an idiot.
Okay.
That day, Marianne slept in an apartment. So I believe from the 4th to the 5th, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head, Marianne slept in an apartment above the pub. Okay. And
Okay.
later had a photo shoot. This part was weird. She later had a photo shoot to show off her VW Volkswagen that had it had interesting painting, like a painting job.
Okay.
So she had a photo shoot for that. Okay. So she did that, got home that afternoon, and Anna wasn't home. So she contacted police that night.
Okay.
Okay. So that's where Marianne was in all this. Okay.
Okay.
Because one of the things, and I had to look somewhere else other than my main source for that because I was like, where was Marianne during all of this stuff? Like, what was going on?
So Marianne didn't know she wasn't at school.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So here's one of the bigger problems with this dude, besides the fact that he just killed a little girl. He had been a convicted sex offender.
Of course.
I know. I know.
Mm.
And previously was sentenced for sexually assaulting 2 young girls.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It gets worse.
Okay.
I mean, I shouldn't say it gets worse. That's really bad. It just doesn't, like, the way that it was handled is just so crappy. So
Yeah.
in a psychological evaluation, he had said that he suffered from an addiction to an abnormal sexual instinct and that he was, quote, considerably limited in his ability to prevent it.
That I can believe.
Okay. Well, tell me more.
Okay. So, and we're going to get into this. I have another case where we're going to get into this a little bit, but sexual offending behaviors
Mm-hmm.
function like at their most basic layer as an addiction many
Mm-hmm.
times.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a world in which, and this is why I say, and this is really flippant, and so I don't mean any disrespect to people that do this work or
Mm-hmm.
to people who struggle with this. I think there should be a sex offender island. I think that we need
Yeah.
a place where people have dignity and food and the things that they need because they have inherent value as a human being, but they cannot people. I think this about certain serial killers, but I also think this about certain sexual offenders. I've worked
Mm-hmm.
with juvenile sex offenders where we have a window to intervene. Adult sex offenders, there are people that do this work every single day that we know.
I can't even imagine.
And I do think that there are some individuals who cannot control themselves in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some treatments for this, but not not a ton, and it's not the most effective. And so you're looking at harm reduction, safety strategies, safety planning. I mean, that is what it looks like to work with a sex offender.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have registries, is so we know where
Yep.
these folks are. And
Yep.
so if something goes down, we go talk to the sex offenders first because
Yep.
they're the most likely to be offending in the community. Now,
Yep.
don't get me started on the sentencing laws and all of that. That's
Oh,
something
that's a
for another day.
whole, yeah.
But there is a world in which, and we work with people who evaluate these folks just like we do for domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them really high risk of reoffending because of their individual makeup.
Yep.
Some of them with limited capacity for treatment, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
So that is possible.
It just baffles me though. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
coming at it from a human perspective, not like a counselor or psychology perspective,
100%.
from a human perspective, I do not understand the concept of not having self-control.
Yes. So, well, because you don't have an addiction that I'm aware of, except maybe running even when you're itchy.
We'll be right back.
Welcome to Real People, Real Life, where everyday conversations lead to extraordinary insights. We're all about digging into the lives of regular people who've achieved success on their own terms. This is Real People, Real Life. And now your host, Ryan Chereau.
Yeah, but I run to get rid of the itch so that I can run more.
Exactly. But you have, if anything, healthy fixations in your life,
Yeah.
things that are important to you. This part of the brain can get hijacked with sexual offending behaviors. So, and I don't want to go too deep into this because I have a mini on this, but
Mm.
really, I mean, it is like cocaine in the brain.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, actually, it's a little bit like eating disorders in a weird way in the brain,
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
sense that, okay, If you use crack cocaine and you're addicted to it, if we remove you from an environment where you will come across crack cocaine,
Mm-hmm.
you have a chance at recovery and we can put together a plan for you and everything else.
Yeah.
Eating disorders are extraordinarily hard because you have to eat.
Yeah.
With sex offenders, they're going to be around people.
Yeah.
They're going to be around people. The only way they're not around people is if they're incarcerated or removed from society in some other way.
Yeah.
So I'm not making excuses for the behavior is ridiculous.
Oh, it's
And
insane.
just like addiction behavior,
Would that be similar to like serial killers?
yes,
Yeah.
very much so. And psychopathy, where the brain is literally different. So
Yeah.
I am not saying we need to understand their behavior and none of that. We don't have to
Mm-hmm.
understand and like
Mm-hmm.
accept
Mm-mm.
any part of their behavior. But there is a world in which that's a valid evaluation to
Yeah.
say, and
Yeah.
there's even a chance that he said they do polygraphs with sex offenders. I don't know if
Yeah.
they did at that time, but they do
Yeah.
now. One of the goals of sex offender treatment is full accountability, which is the
Yeah.
same as what we do with domestic violence.
Yeah.
They include polygraphs in that treatment. And
Yeah.
so even the fact that he left a note saying what he did and then had an evaluation where he said this thing, I can't control this thing, those
Mm-hmm.
two things line up in my brain a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Okay.
But the
That's fair.
behavior's insane and
Yes.
makes me want to kill him, right? I mean, so that's
Right.
the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I ask from like a more human, like, perspective is because I think the work we do is there's overlap with DV and SA.
Quite a bit, actually, but on an
Yes.
adult level, not an
On a,
adult to a child.
correct.
Yes.
And so I think, when people talk to me about what you and I do for work, right? Like I can understand for whatever
Yes.
reason a DV brain,
100%. Me too.
right? Like I understand the psychopathy, I understand
Yes.
the power and control dynamics. I
Yep.
understand that.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times people will talk to me and they're like, "Well, I just don't get it." And then take it, in my opinion, to another level with sex
Yeah.
offenders.
Absolutely.
Right. And even my brain cannot comprehend sex offender behavior. I can
Oh,
understand DV behavior
yes.
more so than any other, and same thing with like addiction
Yes.
and all of that. But then you take it to the sex offender world and it just doesn't always compute. That scared the shit out of me.
I know. Aspen just like fell out of the sky.
Where did you come?
I don't know what she was doing.
Where she just came
Man, is
from?
that like a window behind you? It's like she came down from a window.
Dude, it's like boarded up.
Okay, that's wild. I saw one paw and then she just came flying down.
I didn't know she was up there.
Working with juvenile sex offenders, Nat, I think really helped me understand. First of all, many sexual offenders, not all at all, because there's also an overlap between psychopathy and sex offending behavior.
Yeah.
But when you really work with juvenile sex offenders, many of them have been victims of sexual offenses themselves.
Yep.
So there is just this developmental, deep in the brain
Mm-hmm.
issue happening. And it's not an excuse. And one of the reasons why our society has such a hard time understanding sex offenders is because we don't manage them well.
Right.
Our sentencing laws aren't great.
Yeah, no, they're
So
terrible.
you can't blame a sex offender if the system lets them out too early. Some of them have said, I need to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no room at the inn. Sometimes they, because they're working on their behaviors, they get released. Some of them don't even want to be released.
Right. They're
Because
like,
they
I am
can't
a
manage
menace.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Well, and those individuals are very self-aware, and I appreciate the self-awareness for some of them.
Yeah. But it's also okay to hate this behavior and
Yes.
not understand it. It's not understanding it from a place of any kind of endorsement. It's just
Right.
understanding brain chemistry.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Well, and I mean, shoot, go back to the Menendez case,
Yes.
right? I mean, both
Yes.
those boys were abused, in my opinion. I
Yes.
believe they were fully abused.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
And then Lyle perpetrated as a kid onto Eric as a kid,
Yes.
right? There's no reports that they had perpetrated
No.
as adults,
No.
but Lyle had mimicked the behavior that his father was demonstrating. And then there's rumors that the father was doing it because he was also a victim at one
100%.
point. So
Yeah.
I understand that part of it. But anyway,
So he had prior convictions,
correct. And he was a sex offender.
and he was he was, well, not registered because I don't think they had that then.
No,
But he
but
was a known sex offender to the courts at a minimum.
correct. Convicted sex offender. Like I said, in that psychological evaluation, he said all the things, right? That he is limited to in his ability to prevent the behaviors that he has. So he was sent to a treatment facility rather than jail.
Mm.
Here's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't love that.
He should have gone to jail.
Yes.
And then he should have gotten treatment in jail.
Yes. I agree with
Okay.
that.
I do
100%.
not think he should have gone to. He killed a little girl and also perpetrated on 2 other little girls
I
that
agree.
we know of. Okay,
Right.
that's just what we know of. Most of the time, these guys have gotten away with other stuff.
Yes, 100%.
So he was given the option of a chemical castration or to spend more time at the institute that he was being treated at. Okay.
Mm.
He took the castration,
Mm-hmm.
which, when I was reading this, because I didn't read ahead yet,
Right.
like, okay, well, good for him. He's like, you know what? I don't want to perpetrate. Maybe that was his thought. I don't want to
I'm
perpetrate.
broken.
I'm
If
broken.
medication, whatever process.
Let's take away the temptation. Let's take away the ability
Yeah.
for me to do anything. Okay. So then 2 years later, he reverses the castration.
Mm.
So he gets it reversed.
Mm. I wonder who did that. Like, what doctor goes, yes, I will give you whatever to reverse your chemical castration.
You know what? You know what I think?
Hmm.
I think, and this is my brain playing all the stories in my head.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? He was at a treatment facility, and sometimes therapists and psychologists and whoever can also be manipulated.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
So here's what I think may have happened.
Yep.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, people who recommended the chemical castration probably also knew you could get it reversed.
Oh, I'm sure you would have.
Right.
It's like us. When any recommendation we make,
Yeah.
we know that there's stuff that can happen on the other side of it.
We know the risk factors.
We do.
Okay. So I wonder if there was someone who, and SO individuals, sex offender individuals, are just as manipulative as any other offender.
If not more so. I mean, they
If
can
not
be
more.
extraordinarily manipulative.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, this person could have, played the game, got through treatment, said, I'll do the chemical castration, really maybe played with the idea. And I wonder if someone said, hey, later in life, if you feel really solid, you can get this reversed.
Mm.
Because why would someone pick a castration over spending more time in treatment and not getting castrated if they didn't know that it couldn't be then fixed?
Interesting.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Because that's like a forever, in my brain, if you don't know that it can't be reversed, that's like a forever thing.
It's so interesting because I'm thinking about, on a lesser degree, non-permanent and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And people who drink on abuse, even though it kills your liver, makes you sick, blah, blah, blah. The compulsive nature of this behavior would indicate that even if someone was chemically castrated, there's a more than nothing chance, probably a significant chance, that at some point their body is going to, I believe it's hormones that can reverse chemical castration, because I think it's hormones and medication that castrate. I think it's hormones that can override that. Like, I think that's how that works. I'm not 100% sure. This is not my specialty, but
Well, I do know that he reversed it, but then also, in addition to that, got on hormone replacement therapy, as we know now, which he got on testosterone. So his testosterone, when he killed Anna, was the same as to before when he perpetrated on those 2 little girls.
so that's so interesting to me because I'm with you. I think there's probably a fair bit of manipulation here.
Mhm.
Also, though, he did leave a note saying he did it,
Mhm.
which that's not
Yeah.
your typical sex offender behavior. So he kind of
But
wanted to get caught.
that
Is
was just for his fiance, though.
No, no, I know, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
you know that. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to get away with something, you don't tell anybody.
That's true.
He right away
Yeah.
said this thing happened. So maybe he thought that would get her to support him. Who knows what was in his brain? But devil advocate would say maybe he hit a
Mhm.
point in his treatment where he goes, I want to try to have a fulfilling sexual relationship with my partner.
So that's what was said.
Yeah.
So
Do I
he,
believe that? Not necessarily, but there is
yeah.
room for that.
So he said the main reason he reversed it was because he wanted to start a family with his then fiance.
Okay.
But also, I'm like, you were a convicted sex offender,
Let's
and if
kill
you have little
people.
kiddos,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. If I'm his therapist, I'm gonna go, look, bro. I'm sorry to tell you this.
I'm gonna say cut the thing off.
You're infertile. Like, I mean, literally, like on a basic level,
Yes.
you in particular have a set of conditions. You have some things going on
Mhm.
that indicate that you should probably not have children.
Mhm.
Furthermore, if you reverse this hormonal situation, you're highly likely to reoffend. And I am certain he knew he was at high risk for reoffense because we tell our guys that.
All the time.
So there's not a sex offender therapist in the world
Mm-mm.
that would work with this man and not look at him and say, you are likely to do this again if you don't do
Right.
treatment, your safety precautions, your chemical castration, your whatever.
Mm.
So he knew on some level he was at risk for doing this again.
Yeah. Yep. My genuine recommendation would be to cut it all off.
I understand that.
Anyway,
I really do. I hear you.
you know.
I do.
So he reverses it, like I said the main reason for that was because he wanted to start a family with his fiance. Okay.
Mm.
Well, like you said, every type of offender is at risk for reoffending, especially if it's happened before,
Yes.
right? Sometimes, especially in DV, or I shouldn't say especially in DV, I just know the DV world better
Yes.
than the SO world.
Yes.
If it's a one-time offense, right? And you and I learned about all this, like,
Mhm.
the different types of offenses at the conference that we spoke at.
Yes.
If it's a one-time, one-off situation, you often, not always, but often, they're not going to reoffend because they're terrified of doing that again.
Yeah, particularly if it was a relatively low risk offense as well. Like I
Correct.
didn't know that taking her cell phone was a DV offense. I'll never
Correct.
do that again.
Or
Right.
blocking her from driving after she had been drinking.
Exactly.
But when we meet individuals who've had prior offenses,
Mm-hmm.
that increases the risk of reoffending. So
Well,
this
and
guy
it,
was already at a high risk of reoffending
100%.
after perpetrating on two girls
100%.
and potentially more. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say in DV treatment, that's an immediate higher risk designation, which is the treatment's more intense and we approach it differently
Yep.
from jump. So
Yep.
yeah, everything you said. Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
Like I said before, when he was arrested, and I did find this pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When he was arrested and then like his hormones were tested,
Yeah.
his testosterone was at the same level as it was when he had offended on those two girls.
Mm.
His testosterone level. I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting.
So, when he was charged, arrested and charged,
Mm.
he told the police and the courts that Anna had showed up to his place and seduced him and then extorted him for money by threatening that she would tell her mom about the sexual abuse.
Oh yeah, that didn't happen.
Absolutely
What?
not.
No,
He said he feared going back to prison, so he killed her.
that part did happen.
Yes, that part did happen, but not like
I'm
But
the worst. You've been with me before in evaluations when I'm just like, yeah, I don't believe that. That happened.
yeah, you're so funny.
I know.
Uh,
That's not the best way to approach these situations. However, yeah, no, that's not a thing.
no, she didn't extort him and say, I'm going to tell my mom if you don't give me money.
I don't care how parentified a 7-year-old is.
Mhm.
They didn't do that.
No,
That's just not a thing.
he just tried to go see her friend
100%. Yep. And then
like
go see a kitty.
hours before and then wanted to go see the two kitties. I think
Oh,
there was cats.
yeah, that's vile. That didn't happen.
No. So on March 6th, Marianne showed up at the courtroom where she knew Klaus would be. Also, let me back up. Klaus had been saying, so he said that lie, right? That
Huh?
she, was asking him for money and that she'd extort him, blah, blah, blah. He kept like telling people she seduced him. She came on to him. It's like these freaking. I watched this other clip the other day and I could have thrown my phone
Mm,
of this dude who was arrested, thank God, obviously,
hmm
um, who had assaulted a little girl, his niece, and he was like, she climbed on my lap. Like, I'm sorry,
Mm-mm.
but F right off.
So when I was in college, I was gonna write a thesis because I
Mhm,
did English literature first,
mhm,
and I was going to do reading Lolita in
mhm,
Tehran,
mhm,
which talks about how girls are not allowed, and there's a whole bunch of shit happening over there right now about this actually, but about girls who were learning in Tehran and all these books that they read and their reactions to these books. Well, one of those books was Lolita. So
okay.
Lolita is a book basically about a pedophile's relationship with a little girl and his belief that it's a relationship that way.
Mhm.
So Lolita is like a part of this in this character's opinion,
Okay.
right? So that is pretty common in the SO world. And there's even organizations of men in particular. I know of the male one, like basically men for relationships with boys or something like that. Like it's like
Mhm,
they think that this pedophilia is actually how they were made,
mhm,
right? Which
mhm,
may or may not be true on a chemical level.
mhm.
A child is not consenting to that ever.
Never.
But that is a common cognitive distortion among sex offenders is that this is a relationship.
Mhm.
Obviously, in this case, he killed her, so fuck right off with that
Right.
explanation, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but yeah, I mean that it's not uncommon for them to have that kind of a thought process.
Right. Well, and we talked about that in the Benet case.
Yeah.
Like that one psycho that said he did it, but he was nowhere near the house at the time.
Or like let's say she had gone and spent a lot of time with this man and he was systemically abusing her. He might
Right.
have told himself a story,
Right.
a distortion that he was providing a safe place for her, he was a safe relationship for her.
Yeah.
He made her feel good. Like it's all distorted thinking. None of
Right.
it's
Right.
correct.
Well, and he knew, this guy did know, like, how neglectful her mom was.
Oh, of course he did. He was waiting
Because,
for his moment.
yeah. So he threw a lot of shade her way by talking about, well, Anna was on her own. She would come over when we were home to see the kitties and, stuff
Right,
like that.
right.
Yeah. So this guy did make up some level of a narrative.
Yeah.
So on March 6th, 1981, Marianne showed up to the courtroom where Klaus was being, sentenced or charged or whatever. And as like I said, her anger grew
Mm.
because of all the lies he was saying. She'd also overheard Klaus talking to his attorney, and whatever was said just like sent her over the edge.
Oh.
And it was more of the lies that she had already been hearing, but it just like sent her right over. So
Mm.
she went into court that day and shot him I believe it was 8 times.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And said something to the effect, "This is for you, Anna."
Hmm.
The 6th shot is what killed him. Okay.
Okay.
And I mean, she shot him, like, she shot him however many times, and just basically, like, let them arrest her. Like, she wasn't combative. She was like, full send. I know what's about to happen.
Hmm.
And zero remorse or fight back. She had none.
Hmm.
So she was literally, no pun intended, gunning for this guy,
Hmm.
right? Shot him. She was then charged at the end of all of it with manslaughter,
Okay.
which makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And it was sentenced to 6 years in prison. So she was only there 3 years.
Okay.
What's crazy about her case is people were either on her side and they were like, "Oh, hell yeah, like, good for you, vigilante,"
Oh, yeah.
right? Or they were like, "She's insane," right? And a lot of the people who said she was insane were the ones who were more around, like, they were like, "Well, look at her lifestyle before. It's not like she really took care of her child,"
Hmm.
right? So there's like all this argument going back and forth.
Yeah.
There was a donations fund in her name that people donated to that basically paid all of her legal fines.
Hmm.
So, I mean, people really, they were supporting what she did.
Well, and she was raped while 8, 9 months pregnant, so she knows what it was to be sexually assaulted.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and she's pissed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, and we've done this case not super similar, but similar to the sense of like vigilante
Yeah.
style.
Yes.
What side do you think you'd be on?
Great question. I can understand her thought process very much. I can understand thinking he would likely do this again.
Mm-hmm.
He would do
Yep.
anything necessary to do this again, which is
And to not go
concerning.
to prison. He already avoided prison before.
Yes. So from a prevention perspective, like the ultimate prevention in this case with him is take him off the face of the earth. There's no other opportunity. It removes
Right.
all opportunity to do this again to somebody else.
Right.
Also, she's probably thinking, well, I don't need to take care of her now. So put me in prison. I get 3 square meals a day and I did something for my kid. And she probably felt some guilt
Hmm.
too, so I can really understand where her brain might have been.
Hmm.
I think this stuff is a real slippery slope because the criminal justice system isn't perfect on its own.
Mm-mm.
Our understanding of situations are frequently imperfect
Hmm.
too. And so, yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to endorse murder,
Hmm.
but would I understand very much where she's coming from? Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Can I promise I wouldn't do the same thing?
Hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't walk into a courtroom and shoot someone. That's not something that I would do. But
Hmm.
I really do believe that if I saw something happening to my child,
Hmm.
that there would be a lot of force behind whatever I did.
Yep.
And could that force be lethal? Potentially, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this case is tough. My very my emotional side says, "Good for you,"
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, if we're just in emotion land, it's like get some.
Right.
But if you really boil that all the way down though,
Right. Exactly.
yikes.
You bring in the logical side of your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the part for you and I, where we've done obviously a ton of research
Yes.
on, in a little bit of a different world, but still,
Yes. Yes.
then it kind of muddies that water. But, my initial response was like, I mean, I also wouldn't go into a courtroom and shoot
No.
anybody.
No.
That's not how things would go. But I don't know where I would be if something happened to my little girl.
Mm-mm.
Like,
No.
I don't emotionally, I I can't I don't think I could emotionally put myself in that position,
Mm-hmm.
not having ever experienced anything like that, and think, I would have done that differently. I don't know. I don't know if I would have done that different.
Yeah.
I might have gone at him differently.
Mm.
I might have not done it in a courtroom, but I can't say that I wouldn't have done anything.
Do you watch Shrinking? Are you watching the new season of
I love
Shrinking?
shrinking.
The man who was driving that killed
Yes.
mom. Such a fascinating storyline to
Yeah.
watch because there is this angry, and you know me, I'm as protective as a human can get,
Yeah.
truly. I
Yeah.
mean, without being some kind of special forces, I
Mhm.
look like a kindergarten teacher. I am in no way an aggressive appearing human at all.
No.
I am fiercely protective of the people that I love. And so if something goes down in the waiting room, like I'm the first one out the door to figure out what's going on
Yeah.
before any man. There's not a man that can beat me to the
You
waiting
and
room.
me both.
Oh, I know. We're the same. That's why I always say you're the one I want to have my back in a bar fight because we're just,
Yeah, when we had someone show up to serve someone papers, one of our clients' papers,
oh,
I was the one who went out there and was like, "No, no, bro, leave."
absolutely not. No, you went out in the parking lot and we're like, get out of here. Like,
Yes.
bye. I think that protectiveness, I can really understand the desire to do something physically with all of that
Mhm.
anger and rage and desire to protect. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day,
What does it do?
what does it do? And furthermore, if we as a society embrace this, it's like female violence. We talk so much about how our society embraces, laughs at, enjoys female violence. He cheats
Mhm.
on me, I tear up his car. He cheats on
Mhm.
me, I shoot him. He, you know,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
We think that's hysterical until it happens.
And then
And I'm
it's
here
not.
to tell you it is happening.
Oh, yeah.
It is really happening. And so, from a big picture systemic perspective, I don't think vigilante justice makes
No.
any sense in the real world,
Yeah.
but I can understand it.
Yep. Same.
That's where I land.
But I also just don't know where I'd be if it was my own kid.
I understand. I don't know that I wouldn't beat you to them. I really don't. You know, I mean,
I just don't know, you
I
know?
do think it's unfair to say, but I do have an internal
Mhm.
moral compass and an integrity that would require me in most circumstances to
Yeah.
behave in a lawful manner because I just
Yes.
think that
Yep.
that's important.
Yep. And hopefully trust that the system will work.
Yeah, and you know, the system is what it is, but I think we have to let the system play out in many
Yeah.
situations,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I hear you. I do. So, Marianne, like I said, was released after 3 years, which, I'm like, yeah, I think that's a fair sentence, you know?
Oh, yeah.
He was big pissed. I would be big pissed. Manslaughter, people get
Hmm.
less for doing more. And she was put on suicide watch. She then met a guy. I think I already said all this. She got married, but then she got divorced. This woman cannot get married. She
No.
can't be with someone. Okay.
Mm-mm.
So I think she recognized that. She ended up moving to Sicily and worked in a hospice center. There, she was then diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 46. And she shortly after passed away after her diagnosis.
Mm.
She died at 46, at the age of 46, and was buried next to her daughter. When I read this whole case, there's a lot of going back and forth in my brain of like, man, where would I be? What would I have done? What would other people do?
Mm.
You know, and what does that all solve? Right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this type of situation, Marianne also, like the psychology behind her,
Hmm.
she also wasn't given many good tools,
Mm. No, not at all.
right? I mean, her upbringing was a dumpster fire and abusive, and alcohol, was very present. She then grew up and worked for a pub,
Mm.
drank, right? Partied.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So this woman didn't have a lot of resources to help her.
Mm-mm. And I mean, was born literally into the shell shock of post World War II Germany.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, that's when you talk about intergenerational violence and some of the stuff we talk about how those things have an impact even on a physical, biological, DNA kind of way.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I think she was dealt a pretty rough hand.
Mhm.
And also, can we talk about from a, you know me and psychopathy, this is my
Yeah, that's your thing.
thing. Her father was likely on the
Oh,
continuum for psychopathy. You don't get into
100%.
special forces in Nazi Germany without a screw loose. I'm sorry. Right?
No.
And so there's a part of me going, I wonder if it was easier for her to walk into that courtroom and do that
Mhm.
because she herself had a little bit less anxiety, less,
Yeah.
like she may not have had the thought process you and I are able to have.
Mhm.
It may have been like, you did this, I do this.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like just as simple as that,
Mhm.
you know?
Well, and you and I both know when a kid is raised in a really chaotic home, they actually thrive in chaos.
Yes.
So their nervous system is quieter when there's something chaotic happening.
Yeah, she walked in there like,
Cool as
having
a
a good day.
cucumber.
Yeah,
Her emotions are haywire.
yeah.
She's like, okay, I know what it feels like to have emotions go haywire, and I'm going to do the next best thing that I think is right.
And make it quieter.
Her
Well, if
brain
he's
could
dead, I
not,
don't have to think about killing him anymore.
right, her brain could not sit in a calm space
Mm-mm,
and regulate.
mm-mm.
Chaos helped her regulate, which is why she was at the bar all the time,
Yes, yes.
right? She
Fighting with her daughter. Like I think
fighting
they
with her
probably
daughter.
fought quite a bit.
Yes. So, so yeah. So I mean, Homegirl was not set up for success,
No, she was not.
right?
Mm-mm.
And I don't have a ton. It's hard for me to have any empathy for sex offenders. I'm going to be just like totally straight honest
Well,
with
I know.
you.
That's why you don't work with that population.
No, I could never.
Right.
But I will say, I do know enough, like we talked about, that more than likely,
Mm-hmm.
House was also abused,
Yes.
right? I do think there was some level of remorse that he had because he left a note,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? I don't know how much remorse that is because I do think obviously there is like a very manipulative side to him.
Oh, sure.
But he was trying to live a normal life. He had a normal aged fiance, like
Yeah.
it seems like his attempt was there.
We have to at least consider the possibility that the
Hmm.
castration reversal
Hmm.
was a legitimate attempt to have a family with this person. That should never have happened. I'm not
No,
saying he had a right to that even
no.
because of how he was wired, but there is a world in which that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think that's where I leave it with the heart piece for the perpetrator side. I'm with, my heart for Marianne and for Anna is there. I look at Marianne's life and I just don't think she could
Mm,
have done anything different, to be honest with you, with how
mm-mm.
she was wired.
No, and then with Anna, this is why we do the work. This is why we do the work.
Mhm.
The not glamorous, not sexy work of doing treatment with offenders. It is one thing to watch documentaries and eat your popcorn and be like, what a weird world we live in.
Mhm.
Natalie and I sit with these people every day because it's quite literally the best prevention we can do.
Yeah.
Look at the prevention. Do we prevent for Anna? No, somebody needed to prevent with Klaus. They tried a couple of things. I might have tried a couple more things, but
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like that's the real prevention is we have to go to the offender, to the person with the screw
Yep.
loose,
Yep.
to the person who has the compulsive behavior, the addicted behavior,
Yep.
and figure something out there.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. I always thought when I was in school, people would always, well, for a long time when I did ministry work, I worked with teens,
Mm.
right? And I worked with high risk teens because the areas that I was volunteering and working in were just more high risk,
Oh yeah.
right? Addict parents, neglectful parents, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Not always, but with some of the kids that I worked with, that was the case. And
Yeah.
I remember I was like, there is just not a lot I can do from this.
Mm-mm.
Like I can't help a lot. I can give I can be a good influence. I can, give them the affirmations that they're not getting, but at the end of the
Mm-mm.
day, I'm not getting to the root of the issue. That's how I genuinely felt. So when I went into therapy and when I went to, to get my master's, I was like, I want to work with adults.
Yes.
I want to work with the
Same.
people who are struggling.
Yeah.
And it initially was with addictive behavior, right? It wasn't necessarily with offenders. I didn't know offender treatment was a thing.
Yes.
But initially I wanted to work with the individuals who were really struggling because I was like, you're the source.
Exactly.
And
That's
this is where
exactly how I ended up in this too. Same
this
exact process.
we have to stop it from you in order for it to stop with everyone else in your world.
Well, and I think there's a perception of treatment of offenders that we're just like, oh, how was your day? I really hope you're doing well.
No.
Blah, blah, blah. You guys, like, if you sat in some of the conversations, like, we come from a place of treating people with dignity and respect,
Mhm.
but this is not fun for them. There is
No.
no part of domestic violence treatment or sex offender
Mhm.
treatment that is fun.
There isn't
They
a
are
name.
tough as nails.
There isn't a name that we haven't been called at some
Oh,
point.
100%. Tina would never. I mean, the things that we have
Oh
been
my gosh,
called.
I know.
But you know what? It's if I'm gonna take that hit, you want to talk about being protective.
Right.
I will not take the physical hit because your ass is gonna be in jail.
Oh yeah, hell no.
I will take
Don't
that
press charges.
emotional hit and not personalize it because it's not my boyfriend, not my husband, whatever, not my mom, not,
Right. Yep.
I can stand in that gap and be like, no, you will not. You will
Right.
not do this in a way that
Right.
maybe their partner and their children cannot.
Exactly.
And see if we can't get somewhere. And sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't. That's the
Yep.
truth.
Yep. And the individuals that we can't, we do recommend extra and or more extreme recommendations.
We have recommended incarceration. It breaks my heart to recommend
Mhm.
incarceration, but we have done that. So when I talk about having Sex Offender Island, which I know is like worst reality show ever, oh, let's not ever do that. Um,
I
that
mean, we could
is,
do the island. I'd be down for the island.
yeah, but that's an informed opinion that I have
Mm-hmm.
because there are some people who cannot people.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have to make that terrible recommendation, it is not without a lot of assessment, a lot of thought, a lot of eyes on a situation. That
Mm-hmm.
just is sometimes where we land.
Yep.
And this man should not have been out in the community, period, full stop. Rodney Alcala should not have been in the community, full
Mm-hmm.
stop.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thing that happens, the first thing, if somebody goes missing, where are the sex offenders? If
Yep.
we know that, then we have to really think, is that system actually working?
Yep.
And I'm not sure it is. It's better than nothing. It's better than it used to be.
Yep.
But is it enough? I don't know.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
I don't know. But, we need to elect people into positions who actually understand these things.
Yeah.
And that's not a political commentary on anyone specifically. It's just if we want criminal justice reform, then we need to actually put our
Have
money
people
where
who
our mouth
understand it.
is and do some
Yep.
research and figure it out. When you
Yep.
vote for DAs, actually do some research. Garrett and I look them up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually look them up. What's their
Mm-hmm.
reputation?
Mm-hmm.
How do they lean? What's their kind of philosophy
Yep.
behind how we deal with this stuff? Because it matters.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
there's my little after school special.
I love the after school
You
special.
love the after school special. Well, Nat, what an interesting case.
I know, isn't it crazy?
So leave us comments. We want to know what you think about this case.
Mm-hmm. And here's the
Also,
thing,
be
guys.
kind though. Don't fight with people in the comments. Just
Yeah,
leave your
don't fight.
opinion and then get over yourself.
Just let us know what you think. And here's the
Yeah.
thing, there's no judgment because, Janine and I also have different opinions on things,
Yes. All the
which makes
time.
us a great team because we can hear each
Absolutely.
other out, right? She's on the side of like, I wouldn't do the thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I would do the thing.
100%. And I
You
know
know?
as we sit here, that's probably true.
Yeah, say.
And that's okay because you know what? We need different opinions. We are better when we don't think all the same things.
Yes, but we got to listen to them. So leave your comments. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we're just curious. This is a really interesting case. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Nat. And you
Yeah.
can look forward to a mini in the near future on sex offending, sex addiction, and the hedonic rehabilitation. That's what we're going to talk about.
Exciting.
I know. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. As always,
Bye, forensic friends.
I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening and join us next week for more Crime, Psychology, and Heart.